Hi there, and welcome to another fabulous episode of Famous Interviews with Famous People. I am your wonderful host, Devin Shotsky. And today, we have someone whose name will live in infamy. A legendary person with legendary circumstances. Today, we have Casey Anthony. Welcome, Casey.
My client is very happy to be here on your show, Mr. Shotsky. She is prepared to answer any and all questions to the best of her ability. She just wishes that you treat her with the respect that you show that she so heartily deserves.
Okay, who are you?
I am Jose Baez, Casey Anthony's attorney and good friend. I am here to make sure she is treated with respect and to act as legal counsel during this interview.
Yeah, I don't think she needs legal counsel on this show.
I am here just in case she does, in case any questions that are asked of her that she does not understand, to make sure her rights are known and not infringed upon in this interview.
Okay, whatever you say. Now, Casey, how does it feel to get away with murder?
My client did not murder anyone. She was found not guilty by a jury of her peers. The death was an accident that was covered up by her father during a panic-stricken moment. She did not hurt or murder anyone. She is a loyal and caring mother who never did anything to hurt her daughter.
Yeah, maybe you should let her answer the question.
She does not need to answer that question. I answered it for her, and my answer was sufficient for the question. Now we would ask you to move on to another question in this interview.
Okay, Casey, why did you kill Kaylee?
Once again, my client was found not guilty by a jury of her peers, and she did not kill or harm anyone or anything, especially not her daughter, Kaylee. We would ask you again to move on to another line of questioning.
Are you a sociopath, Casey?
My client has nothing wrong with her mental faculties, and she is just a grieving mother whose child's death was an accident. She has no mental disorders of any kind.
Will you let her answer the questions?
My client does not need to answer any demeaning questions or questions we have asked you not to ask before. When you move away from this subject, my client will be more than happy to answer any and all of your questions.
But these are the questions the world wants to know.
My client killed or harmed no one. She was found not guilty by a jury of her peers. That is to answer to all questions about Kaylee's death or the trial. It was a tough ordeal, but she pulled through.
The world demands answers to these questions.
These questions have already been answered, and my client would like to move on to other questions. These questions are done with. They have been answered, so we ask you again to move on.
Fine. You were molested as a child, right?
My client was molested by both her father, George, and her brother, Lee, as a child. She still feels emotional scars due to the abuse she suffered for years under those two.
Let her answer.
She does not like to talk about the molestation, so I answered your question for her as it hurts her deeply to bring it up. She hates that it happened and still bears mental scars because of it.
I bet she liked it up the ass.
My client hated being molested as a child by both her father and brother, and she did not enjoy it. It troubled her deeply and still troubles her to this day. She would ask you again to leave this issue alone.
Now, did they ever beat you with a belt and make them call you Daddy?
My client would like no more questions about this subject. We ask that you move on. She does not wish to speak about this subject anymore, and we ask you again to please move on.
I bet she got real good at sucking dick at an early age.
My client does not wish to speak of this. We ask you again to move away from this line of questioning once and for all. She does not want to talk about this subject at all.
Fine. Casey, you were found guilty of lying to police. Why was that?
My client admits that she may or may not have lied to police during questioning. The only reason my client did this was because she was afraid of that if she told the truth, she would be sent to jail.
But if it was an accident, she wouldn't go to jail.
My client was afraid and alone during that time, and she feared for her own life, fearing that police would send her to jail for the accident. My client then covered it up so that she wouldn't be blamed.
Can your client speak?
My client is fully capable of speaking to you at this time. She chooses not to, as she does not enjoy this line of questioning that you are asking. My client wishes to speak about the good times in her life.
Then let's talk about the good times. Did you ever make Kaylee watch as you plowed some guy?
My client was a very good and honest mother. My client would never do anything to purposely hurt her daughter or do anything in front of her daughter that would cause her any distress.
Did you teach her the secret to a blowjob? Was all in the tongue.
Once again, my client was a good mother and Kaylee was a young girl. My client would have never done anything like that in front of her daughter, or would talk about issues like that in front of her daughter.
Now, we know your client's dumb, but should we assume she's also deaf and mute like Helen Keller?
My client is highly intelligent. She is not in any way, shape, or form stupid, nor does she have any mental or physical defects that would cause her not to be able to see, hear, or speak. She just chooses not to answer this line of questioning.
So, Jose, you're a lawyer, right?
I am an attorney, and I'm here representing my client in this interview. I'm here to help her with any tough questions she may need help answering, as well as speak for her when necessary.
You're Mexican. Does that mean you took our jobs?
I did not take anyone's job. I worked very hard in the law field, very diligently. I worked hard and became successful. Not everyone can be an attorney, but I managed to make it as one. I took no one's job.
Then how did you become a lawyer?
Well, Mr. Shotsky, I was standing outside a Home Depot one day looking for work, and all of a sudden I saw this very well-dressed man walking across the parking lot. So I ran up behind him, hit him in the head with a brick so I could assume his identity. He just so happened to be an attorney, so I assumed his position as an attorney, and that's how I got where I am now.
Yeah, that would explain why you seem incompetent.
I am not incompetent. I am a very well-educated man. I graduated top of my class at Tijuana University. I have been practicing law for 5 years and have worked very hard at my practice.
Now, what's Tijuana University like? Is it day 1, drink tequila, day 2, eat the worm, day 3, graduation?
I studied for over 4 years at Tijuana University and became a practicing attorney in Mexico. It was rigorous and hard study, and I was very diligent, and I'm highly qualified to do this job.
Ah, I see. Now, Casey, did you ever plow him?
I did not ever have sex with my client, nor would I engage in such a lewd act that is degrading to both her and me. We worked very hard together, but we never engaged in anything inappropriate.
Yeah, I bet you hit her with a bat and called her a piñata.
Once again, Mr. Shotsky, we never engaged in any lewd activity. We never had any inappropriate behavior while I was representing her. These are slanderous lies that you're telling, and we ask you to stop.
So, Casey, tell us what it's like.
My client does not understand the question, what's what like?
Well, what it's like to be raped in a prison shower with a potato.
My client was never gang raped in prison with a potato or anything else. My client does not wish to speak for time in jail. She insists on speaking about happier times.
Was your nickname Finger Cuffs in high school?
My client does not wish to speak about inappropriate or lewd things that happen in her life. She wishes instead to focus on happy, healthy, and positive things that happen in her life.
It was good. I bet she'd come all over the place with 2 guys in her at once.
My client does not wish to speak about any of these things. We wish you would move on to other questions for my client. Something positive and mature, not lewd or inappropriate.
Well, I am moving on, and you keep telling me to move on. But you keep speaking for her.
That is because you keep asking lewd or inappropriate questions. We would like you to ask about something positive or happy. Maybe about her time she spent with Kaylee before she died.
I already did, and you spoke for her.
No, you asked about my client's sexual position, if she ever made Kaylee watch. It was inappropriate and lewd, and my client did not wish to answer that question.
Fine. How many times did you attempt to kill Kaylee and fail?
Once again, Mr. Shotsky, my client does not wish to answer that question. It is an inappropriate question, and my client does not wish to answer it. My client was a loving mother and never hurt her daughter.
Did you plan to molest her as she got older?
Mr. Shotsky, if you continue with this line of questioning, my client and myself will be forced to leave the premises.
Okay, Casey, one more question. Are you a top or a bottom?
We are leaving.
Okay, come again. If you ever learn to speak, Casey. Well, this has been Famous Interviews with Famous People. See you next time.